Final Fantasy XVI was a pretty good game in my opinion, and while many of us enjoyed it, unfortunately news weeks after launch is coming out proving that the English language subtitles and dub were censored compared to the Japanese version, softening dialogue about the Iron Kingdom's treatment of female captives. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media so you can see when my content is posted, and of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and live streams I create, consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. Now, of course, when this game came out, we all had a lot of questions about if anything and it was going to be censored, because over the past few years Square Enix has changed quite a bit in their games, but the title came out, it went, we all played it, and it didn't really seem like anything was changed. I mean, the game definitely had a few heavy themes in it. It definitely had a lot of dialogue that I think wouldn't make it into a completely, toned down game, but unfortunately we are now finding out that there were changes made. It says Square Enix censors English language for Final Fantasy XVI script in a move ostensibly made to avoid offending the more easily outrage-prone among Western audiences. Square Enix has reportedly censored a bit of dialogue from the English language script in order to downplay the brutal reality of the Iron Kingdom's religious practices. Now, I did stream the full game, and you can go back to that playlist and watch it for yourself. It'll be linked down below, but it was a really good experience, and I'm sad that we're now finding this out, because even though there were some problems with it, right, like every single game, and there were moments where it didn't feel as close to a Final Fantasy experience as I would have hoped, it still in general was solid. I still would replay it, and I did still find a lot of enjoyment out of it, but now knowing that it's censored, it really sours my taste for the game. It really sours that enjoyment that I felt, because I'm sitting here now going, well, is there anything else that was censored? Is there anything else that was toned down? It says, though, one of the several nations that make up the game's world, the Iron Kingdom, is defined by their following of the Crystalline Orthodox, a religion which rejects the idea of a singular god, whose identity in-game is later revealed to be that of Ultima. Per their faith, the Iron Kingdom also condemns the very existence of the dominance, as they believe the ability for a human to both wield an icon and do so without expending the requisite amount of aether to be a perversion of their core beliefs. It of course says, however, despite their disdain for the dominance, the Iron Kingdom is not above exploiting them for political and military purposes, as seen in their capture and forceful exploitation of Shiva's icon, Jill. Eventually escaping from captivity with the help of Clive, Jill spends her subsequent journey across the world discovering what it means for her to be free and coming to terms with the fact that she cannot move forward in life, while the Iron Kingdom's unconscionable leader, the Crystalline Orthodox High Priest, still draws breath. And despite the already bleak nature of the entire game, it is near the end of Jill's revenge arc that Square Enix apparently decided American players could not handle hearing the truth of the High Priest's atrocious deeds. Now, the reason why the censorship makes zero sense is because you can very clearly tell what happened to Jill, because she does have this very big, prominent revenge arc in the game, and it is, a turning point for her, because she really can't let go the past up until that moment, and that's why Clive says, I will do anything for you, I will support you no matter what you feel needs to happen in this situation, and they do go on to kill him, but at the same time, you knew why she was upset, you knew why she was angry, and to hear and to now know that they toned back the dialogue is just so absurd, because again, that heavy theme is still there. You can tell she was a slave. She makes it known that she was a slave, and you figure that out very early on in the story, and you can tell that she was definitely exploited for her power, and ultimately, yes, she was taken advantage of and assaulted in many different ways. It says in the original Japanese version of the scene, as explained above by a noted translator, the scene in FF16 where Jill confronts the High Priest at the Iron Kingdom is incredibly graphic in Japanese. The English says that he put the kids in chains, but the Japanese version says the children were all females and violated sexually before they were sacrificed. It's really messed up, she added. I was actually really shocked when I got to it and listened to Jill's lines during my second playthrough with the Japanese audio, because the English version softened the violence a bit, and it makes the High Priest even more despicable. And that's something that I think they should have kept in there, because yes, you do need to understand that he is like this awful, despicable person. That is why Jill is so adamant on destroying him and everything that he cares about. And I did the first playthrough with English because of course that's what my audience voted for, but I was going to replay this in Japanese, and I probably would have remembered the English version when I got to this, but you know, when we're talking about a 30-hour game here, it's not something I want to play 2 playthroughs back to back. But hearing this makes me really almost not want to go back and play it, because even though I want to see if there's any other changes, it just sucks to know that this happened. I don't mind heavy themes in games, and now knowing this section was toned down and reading the differences, it really does change how intense it feels. I think it's so important to show why characters are so upset, and in this case with Jill, she briefly explains it, but this makes so much more sense that it was so much worse, and I really wish that it was in my first playthrough, because even I, as the player, would have been so much more passionate about the boss fight and the scenes afterwards. And this thread where the changes were pointed out has blown up a bit. It's got over 500,000 views at this point, and a lot of people are also very upset to hear about this. And again, keep in mind, you know, Square Enix has made some bad choices over the past few years when it comes to censorship, toning down female characters, toning down heavier themes in their games. So it's not surprising, it's just very disappointing that, especially now, you know, months after launch, we're finding out that it was actually toned down. I did give this game a chance because it's a mainline Final Fantasy game and a lot of people were excited for it. I was very excited for it. I still did thoroughly enjoy my time with it, but dumbing down this English version, it's like you don't trust your player base, you know, like you think that they're gonna freak out. And while I'm sure that there are some sensitive snowflakes out there that would complain about this, months before launch, they had really pushed the point that this is an M for mature game, that it's supposed to be a lot darker than other Final Fantasy titles. So why make it darker if you're just going to lighten it for specific regions and for specific, you know, voice lines and dialogue and languages? Wow, so the English version was kind of dumbed down to be not as dark. I keep seeing clips of the Japanese version and it's way darker and a lot of scenes are different. I could not find another compilation that shows any differences because after, you know, this came out, I did try to look more into it, but I'm gonna keep looking into it because I'm sure that there are other, even if they're small differences at least, simply because we're hearing about this now. And honestly, I feel like Final Fantasy 16 has been a bit of a mess behind the scenes, because originally we heard that it sold extremely well, that Square Enix was very happy with it, but now that story is kind of changing because we're actually hearing that FF16 sales fell short of their expectations, and it was not as profitable because of the high development costs. So it seems like Square Enix is in a bit of a pickle right now. They seem to have either, you know, lied or not been as truthful about it meeting expectations. We're now finding out that the English version is dumbed down compared to the Japanese version, and this is creating quite a storm on social media of people who are very upset with them. If there are any other changes that are, you know, talked about on social media, if I can eventually, you know, find any threads that are put together, I will definitely be covering this again. But for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.